and welcome back to my channel. It has been a little bit of a while since you've last seen my face, and that has actually been for two reasons. Number one, I am a full-time student to university, as well as I've been really struggling to figure out where I want my channel to go. So I've decided to actually combine the two. I am an art education student, which means in the future I will become an art teacher, which meaning right now I am working on lesson plans and things like that, and I'm realizing how actually difficult lesson plans are, especially for an art teacher. My goal is to become a high school art teacher, and I decided that I want to create this channel to be educational for art teachers, art students, students in general, as well as entertaining for my viewers. So pretty much what I'm going to be doing with this channel is taking lesson plans that I have created and show you the basics of how they work, what's going on in them, as well as show you my version of how a product could be produced. I will be drawing and having fun with you guys and speaking, and for you teachers, I will have tips and techniques on the screen popping up for you. As a bonus for you teachers, I will have a free downloadable written lesson plan in the description below for each of these videos. Now, for these lesson plans, they are a baseline and outline, something I've been thinking of for you guys who are teachers or students or anything. Take this as a base. Take this and make it your own. Put your own spin to it, put your own creativity to it. This is just my ideas that can be produced into something amazing in your classroom. Now, without further ado, let's get into my first ever written lesson plan. Now, before we get into the fun, creative bit of me doing drawings and whatnot and explaining this lesson plan in more detail, I'm going to give you the outline of my lesson plan. This is probably more of a final project. I personally have named it the Who Am I? It's a self-portrait project based on the world today and social media. So my main idea is finding yourself through the mess. We as millennials, Gen Z, I don't know the other one, Gen X I think. I'm personally a Gen Z. I am very influenced by social media. I'm on YouTube, I have Instagram and Snapchat, and I am very influenced by things that people put out in the world. So what if we weren't influenced by social media or the world around us? How would we look? How would you want yourself to be? So the main idea is to draw a self-portrait of yourself in the way you want to be. It doesn't have to even be you, like, technically. It could be an animal that you want to be, or you could be an elf, or you could have tattoos all over. Just draw yourself how you would want to be if there was no judgment, no social media, no influence. And the biggest tip for this for students, you cannot allow them to use social media or their phones or anything as influence. They have to do it straight out of their head. Meaning that this part of the project you have to do in the classroom so that you are able to watch them and see that they are not using their phones or their computers to influence them on what their image is going to turn out to be. And for the second part of this project, you're going to draw yourself influenced by social media. So encourage them to use social media, use Google, use images, and draw themselves how they feel they would be influenced by the media. Obviously, this might not make a ton of sense right in this moment, but as I get drawing and as I get into the project myself, I feel like you guys will start understanding a little more. So let's get into the drawing then.
So, who am I? How would we look if we weren't influenced by social media or the world around us or by other people's judgment? This task of creating an image uninfluenced is nearly impossible with the world we live in today, but we can try our best. The main goal of this project is to push a thought of how social media influence can be good or bad. With our first self-portrait, you are creating a fun and unique version of yourself. This can really help your students find themselves in this artistic journey, or even just find a new creative side within themselves. This part of the project should be fun and creative and maybe show a bit about themselves. Or, like mine, show a fear. As we are watching my speed paint, you can see I'm really creating a fantastical version of myself. I'm a fairy slash elf slash mermaid creature with turquoise skin and pink hair. You can't see that yet, but it will be coming. And I actually chose to do a more water-based creature due to the fact of my immense fear of water. That may sound really strange, but I wanted to make my version of myself to be brave, in the sense of her being the ultimate conqueror of my fear. Now, that is only one way of interpreting this part of the project. You can create a version of you you've always wanted to be, a D&D character, an animal, anything you want, as long as you do not use your phones, your computers, or anything to influence you. A really big tip for this part of the project, as we are not allowed to use any influences or social media or anything, is to take a photo of yourself to use as reference for your pose or for how your face needs to look to make it semi-realistic if you want it to be. I personally used a picture of myself so I could put all of the features in the correct places and make it look a little bit more like myself. Now, for my teachers out there, we all know for a class we need write-ups too. That sucks, but oh well. This project does include 3. After our first self-portrait, we are going to do a write-up to explain why the self-portrait is you. This is giving the student a choice to put their drawings into words and allow them to explain their details. Now, for the more technical part of this project, I wanted this project to be very self-expressive. So I want to allow any medium or media to be used. So that could mean drawing like I am, digital or traditional. You could do sculpture. A big one that I was thinking of is makeup. You could do face paint or anything like that. You can use anything as long as the students are able to express themselves in the way they want to be seen. That is the whole point of this part of the project, is to allow people uninfluenced by social media to figure out who they are, how they want to be, without judgment, without influence, and just be themselves. And yet again, for my teacher friends, I know grading is a pain in the butt, but for this part of the project, the best way to grade is through journal pieces, thumbnails, and especially that last little write-up that they have to do. This is to explain their thought process, where they started, and where they ended. As I was going through this project, creating it my own, my favorite thought of this idea was to make this almost mystery. I understand that putting yourself out there is terrifying, and for some people it's almost impossible. So maybe we could put up some barriers around our students and allow them to just draw, allow them to create this project of themselves, a self-portrait, and have it be a mystery until the very end when you see both pictures together. I'm now going to let you guys just watch the rest of the speed paint, and I'll come back when the painting is done and explain why I drew the character I drew and some details that some students could put in their write-ups for this self-portrait of theirs when they do it. Alright, now that we are at the end of the first portrait, I'm going to explain a little bit of why I drew myself like this and how it ties into my lesson plan. So, as you can see, I said earlier I drew a very whimsical and fantastical version of myself. I have turquoise skin, bright pink hair, and purplish eyes, and scales and gills. Other than using myself as reference, I used no influence of social media, Pinterest, Instagram, or Google to come up with my idea. For me, as a kid, I always loved fantasy. I would play fairies and mermaids with my friends, and I felt like that alter ego was the real me. I chose a sea creature to make my character braver than I am in real life. I am terrified of water, so why not make myself the ultimate conqueror of my fear and be a siren type creature? Personally, for color choices, I chose my favorite colors, which is pink and blue. As I am not judged for what I am creating, why not use my favorite colors? And why not have my skin blue and my hair pink? I also wanted to add scales all over the skin, not only to push the mermaid feel, but because personally I love body modifications. I like tattoos and piercings, and I chose scales as they really just fit more into my character and my drawing better. For the scales on the forehead, I wanted to make it look almost like a crown to remind me of how much I wanted to be a princess when I was little. So even at 20 years old, my self-portrait is a childlike wonder of myself. I am very curious of how you or your students interpret this part of this project. So let's get on to the second part, shall we? For the second part of this project, we are using social media as an influence for a self-portrait. Personally, I am using models and beauty trends for my inspiration, but you can use whatever influences you and whatever you can think of. For my teachers, another idea for this part of the project is to encourage your students to use a certain artist as their influence. Let them do a small research project on an artist of their choice and create a self-portrait influenced from what they have found. This project is not necessarily showing us how social media influence is bad, but the good too. You can also encourage students to use media to dive into their culture or heritage to help influence their self-portraits. By the end of this project, students would complete a short write-up of why they chose the influences they did, and how even though it is influenced, it is still them and still a self-portrait. By the end of these two self-portraits, I feel there should be a small write-up or essay saying the good and the bad of social media influence, which they prefer, and the difficulties in the pieces with their challenges, and which portrait they enjoyed doing more. Now I'm going to allow you guys to watch the rest of my drawing, and by the end of it, I'll be telling you guys why I chose the influences I did, and some other details about my drawing. Now that we've come to the end, you can see I have drawn a very dolled up version of myself. For me, I love makeup and beauty, and I can be very influenced by the beauty world, so I wanted to draw some 2021 beauty trends that could influence others. I really wanted to push a more contoured and symmetrical face as it is a standard in beauty, as well as a big, bold eyes with graphic liner that I have been seeing a lot on Instagram and TikTok. I also gave my self-portrait bleach blonde hair, curtain bangs, and thick dark eyebrows. One of the three biggest aspects of this drawing that are not as noticeable that I have made is the nose is very small, the lips are very big, as well as the breasts. This is to show the immense pressure from social media against young girls to be perfect. For me on this drawing, I made her with an open smile. This was to show the perfect straight white teeth. All my life, I have been very self-conscious of my smile and my teeth, and I have become even more so through social media. Social media has its goods and its bads, and I am so excited to see yours or your students' influenced self-portraits.
As a recap for my lesson plan of Who Am I? We are doing 2 self-portraits, 1 influenced, 1 not, and 3 write-ups. Our first self-portrait, we are throwing social media out of the window and creating a new version of ourselves. Whether it is who you want to be, your biggest fear, or anything else you can think of. For our second self-portrait, we are immersing ourselves back into the world of Instagram and Google to create yet another self-portrait that is also you but influenced by today. For our first self-portrait, you are going to be doing a write-up on why this is you and the challenges as well as pluses of not using social media to influence your self-portrait. For our second self-portrait, you are also going to do a small write-up on also why this is you, which influences you used, as well as the challenges and pluses of using influences for your self-portrait. In the end, we will be doing a small write-up or an essay on the good and the bad of social media influence, on art, as well as on us, and which challenge that you guys preferred with your portraits. Now, for you teachers out there, remember that in the description below, I will be putting the written lesson plan that I did for this project for you guys to download for absolutely free. Please change it up or make it your own. This is a baseline. This is for you guys to just take and do what you will. I really hope you guys followed along or took this into your classroom, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this really fun project. I had so much fun creating this. I guess I'll see you guys next time with another lesson plan. Bye.